Hello, everybody. It's great to have you in your lounge rooms, in your homes, wherever you might be. Welcome to P500 Vote Night. My name is Gail Rogers and I'm the CEO of the Geelong Community Foundation. And this is Simon Loader, who is the chair of the P500 committee. I'd like to start by acknowledging the Wadawurrung people of the Kulin Nations, traditional owners of the land where we're coming to you from this evening. And we pay our respects to the local people for allowing us to gather on their land and to their elders past, present and future. So thank you so much for making time available to participate in tonight's event. It's our 5th year celebrating collective giving or our giving circle for Geelong P500. Online again this year. For those of you who were involved last year in 2020, we were online, but I absolutely know that we will be together next year in 2022 for this event. So thanks for, participating online. I know there's been a lot of webinars of late, so thank you so much for doing that. I'm going to hand over to Simon shortly, but before I do, just a couple of very brief acknowledgements. A big welcome to all of our donors here this evening. A record number. We had 237 donors jump on board our program this year, which is just incredible, all contributing $500. So it's not every day that a group of like-minded people have the opportunity to decide on a most significant grant of $68,000 that's going to be awarded to one of the 3 community organisations this evening. And of course, there's $9,000 of interest that's been added to that grant. So as you would know, 50% of the donation that you make is invested, and every year we bring back the interest from that investment and add it to the grant, and that number is growing every year. So it makes it a sustainable, ongoing program for this region. I'd like to acknowledge the 37 donors that have been with us since 2017, that have been on this journey with us in terms of growing awareness of P500. Thank you. And to the 86 new donors that have jumped on board for the first time this year. Absolutely delighted to have you all on board. Just a quick shout out to Nick and Jane, who were 2 donors that volunteered to be a part of the grant review panel this year. They helped the committee through the shortlisting process. So I was just delighted to have Nick and Jane involved in that process. So sincere thanks to them. And to the P500 committee, a group of volunteers, passionate people that help me here at the foundation under Simon's leadership to support and get the program to where it is and where we are tonight. So my sincere thanks. There's only one grant available tonight, but the foundation's 22-23 grant program will open in December. So we have funded a number of unsuccessful programs. So we certainly encourage all organisations to apply for our normal grant program. We've given away $1 million in the last 2 years. So an extraordinary amount of funding that we're able to provide to the community. So I would now like to introduce Simon Loader. So Simon is the Principal Town Planner at Tract and has kept us engaged, motivated, and I guess his leadership and support has just been fantastic for the committee this year. So Simon, sincere thanks to you. Thank you, over to you to introduce the organisation.
Thank you, Gail. Very kind words. Very much a collective effort between myself and the wider committee, as well as yourself and Tony and Jeanette at the Geelong Community Foundation. So thank you. Look, it's my pleasure to MC tonight's event. And, it's a shame we're online again, but I'm sure, as Gail said, we'll be back together next year. So without further ado, let me give you a little bit of a rundown on how the event's going to work tonight. Shortly, I'm going to introduce our 3 wonderful shortlisted organisations, which will be followed by a video, which will explain to you how the organisations are going to use the grant and the type of impact it's going to have in our community. Shortly after that, we're going to be going into a Q&A session. So I encourage all of you to watch each of the videos intently, and after each video, feel free to use the chat function to post any questions that you might have. And I think we found historically that posting as the evening goes on helps you keep your questions fresh in mind. Please, if your question is specific to an organisation, try to nominate that in the chat. Otherwise, we'll pose it to all organisations this evening. Tonight's voting process is being independently conducted by TrueVote. Each donor should have received an email from TrueVote today or yesterday, I believe, and that'll provide a link and instructions on how you can vote. We do acknowledge that there are some attendees here tonight who aren't donors, and we do thank you for coming along. We're very grateful for that. But unfortunately, only donors can vote this evening. It's a great incentive to get on board for our 2022 campaign, I should say. So watch this space. If you haven't received your email from TrueVote, you can give them a call now on 1300 360 287. I'll say that again, just in case anyone does need to write it down. 1300 360 287. So we'll now move into, introducing each of the organisations. And the first cab off the rank before we get into the video is the Common Ground Project, which is a not-for-profit community farm that promotes food security by creating fair access to locally grown and healthy food. Common Ground Project exists to empower agency and advocacy by offering an inclusive space for growing, cooking, knowledge sharing and ongoing community collaboration. They provide hands-on workshops, training and employment, pathways for food knowledge programs, which directly support food relief efforts in the Geelong region. Grounded in regenerative farming and in recognition of the urgent need for a more resilient food system, they believe that connection to land, food and community can drive real, meaningful social change. So without further ado, here's the video from Common Ground Project.
The name of the program is called Staying Grounded by Common Ground Project. Common Ground Project is a social enterprise regenerative agriculture farm in Freshwater Creek. We grow amazing produce on site, and then we employ women from asylum seeker backgrounds to come in and prepare delicious, culturally appropriate meals. These meals are then distributed and donated to food relief agencies in the community. The great thing, I guess, is that often these women who are often facing barriers to employment and often at the end of the food relief are now at the front and actually being paid to provide meals. It gives them a huge sense of confidence, connection, and often leads to future long-term employment.
Hello, I'm Ivan Blackett. I'm the farm manager at Common Ground Project, and if we receive the funding from the P500 grant, we'll be using it to help cover my own wages and also our community engagement managers' wages, so that we can focus more on running these programs. And so it also takes a bit of the pressure off, allows us to grow more food that can go into the Staying Grounded program that is then donated out to the wider community. If we get the funding for the Staying Grounded program, we have the capacity within the hospitality part of the program to have 2 women coming through each week, and that's rolling over nearly 52 weeks of the year. And we will, at the moment, we've been doing 6-week blocks, so we'll have 2 women for 6 weeks, and then we'll have another 2 participants come through. And then in terms of our horticulture, more food production side of our Staying Grounded program, we're hoping to have more on a weekly basis coming through on that. So we're connected with Diversitat in Geelong, and they have been helping us to find women who are sort of fit for the role. They work with a lot of migrants and a lot of asylum seekers. The Staying Grounded program needs to exist because at the moment, we have people facing disadvantage in our community. There is a lot of environmental degradation going on. There is poor access to health and food within our region and within these disadvantaged communities.
The reason we chose to work with asylum seekers is because there are just so many people in our community from asylum seeker background who are struggling to gain employment, struggling with social isolation, struggling with basic rights to access to nutrient-rich, healthy food. And I think that we have an opportunity and an obligation to do something about it.
The Staying Grounded program will make a difference to the asylum seekers that we employ through providing them employment and also skills within the hospitality workplace. We will measure the benefit to the Staying Grounded participants through a measurement and evaluation framework that we've developed, an M&E framework. We'll be measuring the quantity of food distributed, the number of participants attending, as well as their subjective confidence and readiness for the workplace, and also any changes in their home food production levels. So for the broader community, our food relief meals, which are being produced, we're producing about 100 meals a week at the moment, and they're going out to Feed Me Surf Coast and to One Care as well, and they're distributed to people that are in need for free. And these meals are highly nutritious and often more culturally appropriate than some of the foods that you do find in those sorts of food banks and food relief agencies. And also a lot of the food that we are growing at the farm, well, some is used in the cooking of these meals that are donated, and also where we do donate excess produce. And over the last few months we've donated about 200 kilos of fresh produce to Surf Coast Bellarine, which is then available for free to the community.
We believe that the funds will allow us to have such a big impact, not only on the participants' lives in terms of gaining skills, potentially long-term employment, but also the effects in our community. So often the food that is available to these people in food relief agencies is really low quality, no nutrition at all, whereas these ladies are preparing food that is really high quality. And on an environmental level, the kind of farming we're doing, regenerative agriculture, it's all about rebuilding the life in the soil, sequestering carbon and reducing really harmful greenhouse gases. So it's a really important social and environmental issue. When I think back to when we first started 2 years ago, meeting Farishta, who is this lovely woman from Afghanistan who came here without a partner, with 3 children, really lacking confidence, hadn't had any employment. When I think of her now, after running through the program, she's managed to gain employment, confidence, but also amazing skills when it comes to, growing produce and educating her family the importance of nutritious food. She's just one person that we've affected, and there are many more like that, and we would love to be able to do that on a larger scale.
Welcome back, everyone. Hopefully you enjoyed the video from Common Ground Project. The next organisation that I'm thrilled to introduce is Geelong Mums, which will be known, I think, to many tuning in tonight. They were established back in 2013 by 5 local mums, and in their first 12 months helped over 300 families, and that impact has only grown in the years since. Those who don't know, Geelong Mums recycled nursery equipment, including cots and prams and car seats, as well as clothes and other baby essentials. They sort, quality check and safety check them to ensure they meet the highest standards. Geelong Mums has always been dependent on volunteers, and they remain that way. Their volunteers work during whatever free time they have, often juggling paid work and their own family requirements. From the many volunteers who help out at their premises to the individuals and groups who knit for them, the groups that participate in their workplace volunteering program, they rely on them heavily. And you'll hear a little bit more about that now in their video. Thank you.
Our Stronger Communities and Safer Families program is seeking to recharge and reinvigorate our volunteering program at Geelong Mums. Since COVID began, many of our regular volunteers have been unable or been hesitant to return to volunteering at the warehouse, and we want to be able to welcome them back to a safe environment. We also would like to reach out to other groups who we feel might be at risk of loneliness and isolation, groups such as older men, refugees and migrants, single parents, the unemployed, and welcome them into our program. If we're successful with this P500 grant, we'll be spending the money on ensuring our capability and capacity to run a structured and rewarding volunteer program for Geelong Mums. That will mean that salaries will go towards our volunteer coordinator, who is in charge of ensuring that the volunteers get a safe, well-trained, rewarding experience. It'll also be going towards some salary costs for our partnerships coordinator, who will be reaching out to community groups to encourage them to come into volunteer at Geelong Mums. Groups such as probus groups, retirement homes, men's sheds. We'll also be working with some of our agencies to try and encourage some of their clients to come and volunteer at Geelong Mums, such as refugees, unemployed and single parents. One of the other things we'll spend the money on is rent for our warehouse. While we do have volunteering opportunities for people to do at home, the warehouse is the hub of everything to do with volunteering. It's where we train and induct our volunteers. It's where they pack and sort and safety check and clean the essential items. It's also where we celebrate with our volunteers, where we say thank you to them, where we have morning teas, and where they come together to form their own community. The volunteer program exists to provide community connection and to allow our volunteers to engage in a meaningful way with Geelong Mums' mission of sharing more, wasting less, and caring for every child. Geelong Mums is a community and volunteer-driven organisation, and COVID has severely impacted our opportunity to engage with our volunteers. We had to close for months on end 2 volunteers and 2 donations, and we simply can't do what we do without our volunteers. So we really need these funds so we can get out and re-engage with these people. We need to find new volunteers, and we need to support those who have volunteered with us in the past to come back into Geelong Mums. And by doing this, we're going to support the families of these babies and children that we support. We're also going to help the social workers to engage with the families that they work with. We'll help siblings, we'll help grandparents, we'll help foster carers. We're also going to help reduce landfill and continue our mission of not only sharing more, but wasting less. The program will make such a difference to the people that it supports through many ways. We all know that volunteers actually volunteer for a variety of reasons. Some want to learn a new skill, some want to make new friends, others want to give back to the community and help others in need. And these are the tangible outcomes of this program and what we hope will make a difference in the lives of the volunteers. But once again, the difference will also be made for those babies and children in our community that we support. We'll measure the outcome of the volunteer program by the amount of volunteers we induct in the 12-month period, and also look at data and analyse that from our volunteer survey in relation to what motivates the volunteers to sign up at Geelong Mums. As a volunteer-driven organisation, our volunteer program has the ability to reach so many target audiences in Geelong and offer them a rewarding, a safe, a structured volunteering experience. It's about one of our volunteers, let's call him Mick, who comes in twice a week, washes prams and car seats and safety checks them. It's about him coming in on a Tuesday, doing his work, and when he returns on a Friday, being told the story of how those prams and car seats were given out by a social worker to a family who fled Afghanistan 6 weeks ago with their 6 children, and they now get to travel safely in a car and get down to the park and become part of the community in those prams. It's about the 6 ladies who volunteer every Wednesday morning and then head out to lunch together, and the fact that these ladies didn't know each other 18 months ago. It's about community helping community and people helping people.
Welcome back, everybody. We're down to our third and final organisation this evening, a wonderful group known as Geelong Youth Engagement. They're a network of local businesses, government organisations and community groups that are an umbrella organisation that established the Geelong Kokoda Youth Program, which has been running since 2013. The intention of the Geelong Youth Engagement is to grow and continue to develop more programs that target young people who have been identified as at risk and require guidance, support and nurturing to find their path. Let's hear a little bit more about them in this video.
Geelong Youth Engagement have developed this new program called Strive. It's directed at young people at the age of about 16 who have challenges and barriers in their life, including maybe issues around low self-esteem, re-engagement with school, and just a general lack of knowing the direction of where their future is heading. The reason we've developed this program is we have our Kokoda program. Each year we interview roughly about 50 young people for this. We can only ever take 12 to 15 at a maximum. That's so many young people that we have to put back into the school system who are not getting extra support, and we don't want to walk away from any young person. So the purpose of the program is just to get young people re-engaged, a bit of self-confidence. They can focus on their well-being, their mental health, their physical health, and also see what community support is out there. The way we encourage this to happen is that each week the young people will be with us for 20 weeks of the year for about an hour and a half a week. And in that time, they will go through 45 minutes of physical work, which will build up their physical strength, which automatically helps their mental health. And along with that, we'll be seeking advice from professionals such as dietitians, counsellors, Victoria Police members, who can all contribute and help them either one-on-one with their specific problems. Strive's actually a program that's going to be running over 2 terms, so that's about 20 weeks of the year. It'll be about 25 young people involved in this program, so a lot of that money that we need to run this is going in professional services. Each week the young people will be available for 90 minutes, 45 minutes of that will be physical training, so needing the resources of a personal trainer, and then the other 45 minutes will be on professionals and community people for their professional needs, such as dietitians, counsellors, that can help these people one-on-one as well afterwards if they're needing extra support. One of the other aspects we would like to put into this program is every young person to be put through a level 3 first aid. That gives them that ability to be more community focused. They're available to help in emergency situations, whether that's with peers at parties, family, or in school environment. This will also help them with, it's another tool to put on a resume when all these young people are really heading into that next phase of their life of employment. One of the great benefits of this program is it allows us not to walk away from any young people we meet in need. Each year in the interview process, we are really limited to how many people we can take on our Kokoda program, and it's heartbreaking to walk away from all those other young people when we know this program Strive can be the catalyst to change the future of their lives.
Hello, I'm Max. I go to North Geelong Secondary College, and I was fortunate enough to be selected for the Kokoda Youth program run by the Geelong Youth Engagement. I was very fortunate to be selected. I've definitely reaped the benefits due to be completely deprived of any social connections. As social creatures, it's just that yawning feeling to be like surrounded by people. And I went through hardships, I had to drop my friend groups. They were all going through rough times, and I was just in this crossroad of, should I go down the wrong path? Should I focus on school without any friends? And it was very tough not being around anyone, but being able to see people weekly, hang out, make friends, work out, it was just a great involvement, a program to be a part of, and it really helped me a lot.
The program can make a huge difference in these young people's lives. Some of these young people come to us with an array of issues such as mental health issues, which could include suicidal tendencies, self-harm. They could have a history of family violence, and then also just a general disengagement with school. So this program will help try to address all those issues. Everything's different for every young person, and the way we will measure that is having constant contact with families, with schools, about how they're coping at school, how their attendance is, and then also long after the program finishes, we continue to keep in contact with all the young people by doing surveys on where they're at and catch-ups every few months. So it's really to keep them engaged as much as possible. We're here for them for the long run, not just these 20 weeks of this program.
The difference that the program's made for me was that just my self-esteem's went up, my confidence. I was just feeling better and just like healthy. I feel mentally healthy, physically healthy. And then I've noticed people that weren't able to get in the program, they're not there at the moment, and like maybe with a program like Strive, they'll be able to really, get back on track. The program definitely helped clear the murkiness. It's just due to everyone just getting exhausted, we were able to open up a lot easier than when we'll be tense and on guard, I guess you could say. And then being able to talk about things instead of being pent up in my room, no social life, no one to talk to about stuff, I could really just get out and really clear my head.
This grant can be life-changing for these young people. If we were fortunate enough to receive the P500 grant, that would actually cover the costs for 2 years of this program. That could be up to 50 young people's lives who are impacted in a positive way.
Welcome back, everyone. 3 great videos from 3 amazing organisations, and I want to take a moment to particularly thank Cormac Hanrahan from our committee, who dedicated his time to compile those videos and help our organisations target their messaging to our wonderful donors, you, tonight. So I hope that you enjoyed them, and I hope that you found them really informative. And a big thanks to those who've already started to send through your questions in the chat function. They're coming through, so thank you very much. We're going to begin the Q&A session shortly, but just to let you know, we've got about 15 minutes, so we will try and get through as many questions as we possibly can, and we'll try and share the spotlight with each organisation as well. Joining me tonight, particularly from Common Ground Project, is Nathan Tolman, CEO of the Mulberry Group, Ivan Blackett, who's their farm manager, and Greta Carroll, who's their community engagement manager. Joining from Geelong Mums tonight is Julia Roach, the general manager. Welcome, Julia. And from Geelong Youth Engagement is Kelly Taylor, the program administrator. Thanks for joining us, everyone, and thanks for committing your time to this evening. It's wonderful to have you here. We're going to get straight into things, given our limited time. So we're going to fire off with the first question, which I think is one that we can put to each group, but we might start with Common Ground, which is, what do you see your organisation achieving in the next 12 months if you're successful tonight?
All right. Hi, everyone. I'm Greta. I wasn't in the film, so I guess I'll speak now. Over the next 12 months, if we are to be successful in the P500 grant, we would see ourselves continue the Staying Grounded program, which at the moment has the cooking program and the hospitality work experience, but we have also started running a food, like home scale food production program through that as well, which was delayed a little bit through COVID, but there was a lot of appetite in the community. That's a very unintentional pun. But there's a lot of people in the area who are already growing food, growing crops that they used to grow back home before they came to Australia. And we'd like to see that. People are asking us all the time for support. And so we'd like to actually start increasing the amount of food that's grown in people's backyards, as well as increase the amount of the agricultural workplace skills that the Diversitat community have to seek employment. Ideally, we would have a farmers market at Common Ground Project where participants from the Staying Grounded program could run a stall themselves, as well as we could then also be providing our produce direct to the community, whether they're part of our Staying Grounded program or just everyone in the community. So
sounds like some grand plans ahead for Common Ground. Wonderful. Thank you. Julia, we might throw to you. Next 12 months, what does it hold for you if you're successful? You're on mute still, Julia, I'm afraid.
I'm so sorry. Of course, that's the standard line for 2020 and 2021. I'm very sorry. If we're successful in this grant, we really hope that we're able to re-engage and revigorate with not only all our volunteers who haven't come back since the start of COVID, but also with a new cohort of volunteers in the community. COVID, we know, highlighted the social isolation and the disconnectedness of our community, and we've really felt that with some of our current volunteers who really struggled because they couldn't share and come into Geelong Mums every week. So we realised that not only do we want to re-engage with them and make sure that we have a fabulous program for them. But we realised that there's lots of other groups around Geelong that we haven't actually tried to engage with. We've been very lucky, and our volunteer program over the last 7 years has been very organic. We haven't sort of had to go out and market ourselves, but we don't want to market ourselves, but we want to try and connect with these groups that we think might already be experiencing some sort of isolation. So we really want to spend the time in trying to find out who those groups are and how we can best engage with them, because ultimately we need volunteers in our warehouse to support the thousands and thousands of babies we do each year. So we hope to do that, but then also make sure we do support all those babies and children in the Geelong community.
Wonderful. Thank you, Julia. And finally, Kelly, what's the 12 months ahead hold for you if you're successful?
If we were successful, the 12 months I think is really big for us. We've had our Kokoda program, obviously, but by having this as well, we're doubling the amount of young people that we can really support on a one-to-one basis. And I think the flow-on effect of that is way beyond just that individual building their confidence and maybe re-engagement back at school, but it really has an effect on their peers, their family, the support. And this program is really about making them aware of the wider community as well. Some feedback we've had lately is, young people have been stuck in their rooms for nearly 2 years, and that's had a real impact on their social skills. And so it's something that needs to be almost relearned, and be aware that there's people outside of just themselves. So that's something we really want to focus on. And if we can help one, that sort of rubs off on their friends and other people in the school, and just sort of has that impact, especially in the school system when they've got so many young people that they're trying to address their individual needs. If we can just help that on a larger scale of some more people, then I think that's a big help to them all.
And on the topic of schools, Kelly, we've got another question here that touches on that. What's the feedback that you've had from schools with kids in this program?
Well, we've actually just been doing a bit of a roadshow, Andy and myself, in the last week. So we've sort of seen probably 70% of the state secondary schools this week, and the balance in the next couple of days. But we're hearing the same sort of feedback from all of them, in that they're like, there's just not enough programs for young people out there, and they've got more and more young people in need. So when we've sort of said they're all used to our Kokoda program, which they fully support, and we're just getting just as much feedback as, yes, this will help those extra young people that miss out on Kokoda. So, really positive feedback, and a similar sort of vein through all of them saying, well, how many can you take? We've got 10 for you, which we'd love to be able to take more, but for us, it's really important to keep the size of the groups small enough so every person gets that individual attention that they deserve.
Great. Thanks, Kelly. Jumping back to the Common Ground crew, how do you keep in contact with your participants once they've finished their 6 weeks?
I'm going to also answer that one because that's my job as well. Lots of phone calls, lots of WhatsApp messages, lots of cups of tea. That's a lot of it, really. Visits to houses, meeting with people's families, sitting with people's families. I get a lot of questions around, can you help me, write a resume? Can you help me? This isn't actually anything that is part of my job, but just can you, have you heard of anyone that's looking for work? Can you help me find work? Can you help me learn how to use my dishwasher? That's how I keep in contact with my participants.
Also, a lot of gardening tips. Get the odd, quite a few phone calls and text messages about what's wrong with my garlic crop, what's this, what's that. And in terms of a lot of the women that we're working with from the Afghani community, the food that you're able to grow in Geelong in winter is very different from what they're used to growing back home. And so there's a lot of crops that they're really not familiar with. They want to be growing their own food. And so we offer a little bit of help and service with that as well. And you've been helping Krista with some catering work as well.
Great. And I'm sure there's plenty, but have you got one that comes to mind when people ask what's your biggest success story through the program?
I would say, it's not particularly one person, but a group of people. So there's I'll make it really quick, a very quick political summary. But during the Afghanistan war, a lot of asylum seekers came to Australia and were granted what was called a temporary protection visa, which, if you think with a rational mind, doesn't quite make sense, and they still don't have permanent protection. So there's a lot of people living in the community, and particularly in around Corio and Nor Lane area that we work with, who are still unable to really settle in the area. And we have had quite a few come through the program, few women come through the program. And when the conflict escalated in Afghanistan a few months ago, we decided to start fundraising money through what was called the Afghan Feast. So we sold tickets. The women were employed to come in, to design the menu, to order the food, to even to, I guess, contract their friends who were already providing cultural Afghani items in the community, like bread, and to put in this big feast to raise money. And we raised almost $4,000 to support people who'd recently been displaced in Afghanistan, and now planning to do another one, but supporting newly arrived migrants who have recently been resettled from this most recent conflict. So
wonderful. You've done well there, Greta. You've answered another question that someone put in, so that's brilliant. Great job. Julia, jumping across to Geelong Mums again, what's the biggest obstacle you've had to overcome in the last year? Obviously, a bit of a downturn in volunteers. Are you able to sort of quantify that shift for you and your organisation, and how big that impact has been?
Yeah, absolutely. So our biggest obstacle has absolutely been that we had to close for volunteers and for donations for probably around about 7 months over the last 18 months. So that means we had no, and we are a volunteer-driven organisation. We have 5 part-time staff, but the rest of the work is done by the volunteers. And not having any volunteers in meant that, and not having any donations being able to come into the community, also not being able to have any fundraising activities. So we were in a fortunate position where we had a lot of stock on hand because the community had been, when they were allowed to, had given us lots of donations. But it was left to the 5 staff to sort, to process, to clean, to safety check, to tinker, to fix, and things like that. And so it really was the lack of volunteers, and it got pretty hairy at times where we were thinking we're going to run out of goods, and we're going to have to say no to the social workers and the maternal and child health nurses who really needed our support. Now, luckily, we didn't once have to close our doors to our clients, and that's something we're really proud of. But the biggest obstacle was just trying to keep those doors open without our volunteers. And so the one thing about our volunteer program that we're really proud of as well is that there's no rostering for our volunteers, so they don't have to have a set day or a set time to come in. They can come in for an hour a week or an hour a month, or they can come in 4 days a week. And we know that really works well for a lot of retired people who might want to go travelling, although there's been very little of that in the last 18 months, or people, grandparents who might be called in to look after sick grandchildren or on holidays. So really what's happened, though, it's really difficult for us to quantify how many volunteers haven't come back because they don't have to have a roster. But we would estimate that even now we are still down probably 40% of the volunteers, the regular volunteers that came in. Fingers crossed, tomorrow, once masks are off, we might see an uptake. We're really, really hopeful about that. But the coming in and out of lockdown and has really put a dampener on it. And also a lot of our volunteers are retired people, so they're of an older generation. So they're also more concerned about their health, or family members, they're worried about their health. So it has been a huge impact on the amount of work that we can do.
Thank you, Julia. That's a great answer. Kelly, jumping back to you for the Geelong Youth Engagement, the context of this question is just understanding how schools in lower socioeconomic areas access programs versus the more affluent. And the question was just around if you can clarify if a school's unable to access the Kokoda program or the Springback program, are they still able to refer directly to the Strive program?
Yeah, well, to be honest, for the Geelong region, we actually deal with every state secondary school. So all 13 are involved with Kokoda and have been for some time. The difference is the extra schools we've got on for next year, Bannockburn are joining the program because they don't actually belong to this region but have so much involvement with the area. So we've brought them on board. Then at this stage, we are talking to the likes of Sacred Heart and St Joseph's. So for anyone in those lower socioeconomic areas, we're actually covered every high school in the Geelong region. So they've all had access since the program's really been running. So 2013 was the first year. And that's why we're doing this roadshow at the moment, just to fill them in on timelines, how everything works for the year. So we ask for a very small donation from the schools because we know, funding's tight for every school, which we've had, everyone's more than happy to contribute to that because it's very small compared to the total cost of the program. All our money for the program is raised through the community and our sponsors. So there's not any cost at all for any young person on the program. Everything's included for them. And that will be the same for Strive. And for the Strive program, this new one, there is no cost to the schools at all as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kelly. And we might have time for only one last question. We'll see how many we get through. But back to Common Ground, just some clarity for our donors. How many women are you hoping to be able to train and support through the funding through the next 12 months?
I'm happy to answer that one. Basically, the program's run for 6 weeks. So we have 2 women every Monday coming in, preparing 100 meals, and they're obviously paid for that work. So there's about 18 women per year that are running through this program. And then obviously the flow-on effect is that hopefully they gain confidence and skills that allow them to gain employment elsewhere once they move on from us.
And with the farming, we already have 6 very regularly engaged farming women, and we can have up to 10 in that program. 10, yeah, each week. So that's, again, I'm going to have to do my mental maths on the spot. But yeah. Oh no. 10 per program.
Over 6 weeks.
Yeah.
About 40.
About 40.
Yeah.
Amazing. That's great. Well, we'll try and fire through another couple of really short questions just before we run out of time. Jumping back to you, Julia, how many families do you support each year, if you can put a number on it? And are you able to place a monetary value on the goods that your volunteers distribute within the community, just to give our donors a sense of the scale of your impact?
Sure. So in the last financial year, we supported 6,126 babies and children in the Geelong community. That it worked out, I think, to about, we don't actually base families. We don't do our numbers on families, but that many children. It's around about 2,800 families, I think. And that's at an estimated recycled value of $2 million. So that's a second-hand value. So if they were to buy these second-hand, it's around about $2 million, a bit over $2 million. So, but if it was brand new, that's anywhere up from $5 to $7 million.
Thanks, Julia. Incredible. And finally, Kelly, we'll finish on this question. What are you looking for in your participants, and how do you make the distinction between those that perhaps go with the Kokoda program and those that you take through the Strive program?
Yeah, look, that is really tough, a decision, who gets in what program. We ask the schools, they do the nominations for the 3 young people they put forward, because the school staff know the young people of their schools more than anyone. So we do ask them for the young people that have, maybe got low self-esteem, that are those ones sort of locking themselves in their bedroom, maybe just playing video games. they could have a real variety of issues. There could be family violence, they could be a victim of bullying, they could be bullies themselves. There's a real variety. So when we're doing those interviews to pick who goes into Kokoda or not, the reason why we ask the schools to give 3 nominations is they might have a person that they think is excellent for the program. And in saying that, every young person is deserving of our programs. But we've got to try and work dynamics of people. So if every school only put 1 young person forward, well, we've got to have a gender balance is one thing, but also we couldn't risk that there'd be 10 bullies and 2 victims in a group. We've really got to look at everyone and just see, well, how the dynamic's going to work. And without having, that's really just going through the interview process. But we've found every year there tends to be a theme that develops, and it's never something that's planned. But so the young people from this year, we just found a lot of the young girls didn't have a mother figure in their life. And that wasn't planned. It just sort of developed into that. And what was great, we had some great female role models as mentors, and they really took on that role. So that's that year, but every year can be something a little bit different. Hence why this program, because the Strive program has been developed, because it's giving all those young people that miss out on that Kokoda another avenue to help and seek support.
Great. Wonderful. Thank you, Kelly. Well, thank you to each of you. They were fantastic answers, and thank you to our donors for such amazing questions. I think we've really got to the heart of the 3 pitches here tonight, and I'm sure everyone's going to struggle with their votes, which is the next part of the evening, which is the exciting part. Again, being handled by True Vote this evening, it's totally independent. Each donor will hopefully have contacted True Vote by now if they haven't received their link. But just a reminder that only donors from this year can vote. All votes are anonymous and secure. Choose carefully, because your vote is final. So once you click submit, that's it. So do choose carefully. Staff from True Vote are on hand to help if you do have any issues with your voting process. Again, that number, 1300 360 287 for anyone who has any troubles. And once you've voted, we do invite you to come back, because we're going to be providing an update on last year's winner, which was Feed Me Ballarat or Feed Me Geelong. And we're also going to have a bit of exciting news about the P500 brand. So do come back once you've voted, and we'll fill you in.
Well, welcome back, everybody. I'm hoping by now that you have all cast your vote, because voting is now closed. I have no doubt that that was a very difficult decision. So thank you very much for doing that. So just a couple of things that we want to finish off on while the votes are being counted in the back end. You would have noticed probably on the screen and on this banner behind me here, well, our P500 logo looks a little bit different, and we're probably running an animation right now of our brand new brand. The P500 committee felt that it was time for a bit of a refresh, and it's a bit like the whole Kentucky Fried Chicken and KFC thing. We decided that Philanthropy 500 was a bit long, so P500 we felt is where we wanted to be. A lot easier to say, isn't it,
Much
Simon?
easier, much easier.
So we decided that we just needed a bit of a refresh. So we've got a great new logo, and P500 will certainly be how we will refer to ourselves in the future. And it's not just about 500 being the $500 contribution. It's also relates to, where we'd like to be in terms of our donor numbers. If we could get to 500 people in the not too distant future, we would just be so delighted, and that would certainly impact as well the huge donation that we could bring. The Smarter Giving component of our logo certainly links back to that of the foundation. It's smart, basically because it's sustainable. We feel we've developed a really great model with 50% of the donation that you make being invested, with the interest from that investment coming back to the grant each year. So that invested piece is just growing every year, which means that it's a sustainable program. So we think we've got a really smart giving circle for this community forever. So just wanted to share that with you. So we really like the pink, don't we?
We do.
We love the pink in our new logo. But we'll now hand over to Simon. He's going to give you a bit of an update on the 2020 winner.
Yes, so Feed Me Geelong, Feed Me Ballerine, as many of you might know, were the winners last year, and they run an amazing program in a couple of locations in our region, providing similar things to Common Ground. You know, it's about food security, rescuing food that's going to waste and putting it to those in need. It's an amazing program, and we've got a short video from Lana Purcell, who's the founder, just giving us a bit of an update on where they're at with the funds from last year. So you'll see a short video from Lana in a moment.
So my name's Lana, and I'm the CEO and the co-founder of Feed Me Geelong, Ballerine and Surf Coast. Feed Me Geelong is based in Newtown. We are a expansion of Feed Me Ballerine, so a food rescue and food relief charity that is servicing this immediate area around here. We do home deliveries of food relief, of dry goods, fruit and vegetables and ready-made meals, and the meals are made in our kitchen in Ocean Grove. We're producing over 6,000 meals a week. So our Newtown Feed Me Geelong is the extra hand that we're needing to expand our hospitality rescue and our food relief within this area. So the Geelong location being in Newtown has meant we've reached further out in the Geelong CBD, all the way just to Lara. And other agencies that have found it harder during COVID to come out to Ocean Grove have been able to come through to our Newtown site over the last 12 months to access bulk produce for distribution throughout their own channels. Having the P500 grant and being able to set up our marketplace with our fridges and freezers and bulk storage areas, and also pallet racking, everything to create that space for agencies and for the customers that are coming in, has been absolutely amazing over the last 12 months. That's been so incredibly fragile in the food relief industry down here. So over the last 12 months, we have been creating a very strong relationship with the Salvation Army for food relief, in the way that they can accept food relief from us for 2 to 4 weeks through the Salvation Army. So we've had hundreds and hundreds of people sign up for that support, and they've been able to come and shop for the food that they need specifically. They're not being stuck with products that they can't use or that aren't appropriate dietary wise for them as well. They've been able to access it in a very dignified and respectful marketplace. Emergency accommodation down here, lots of motels and council run support accommodation. We've been going out to them very, very frequently now, and we bunny hop with people that are moving through emergency accommodation for domestic violence and also those coming out of certain systems and hospitals. So we've been able to get to them a lot quicker with our site down here rather than from the Ballerine. So general public and also people in immediate crisis. So they're not necessarily needing long-term food relief. They're in immediate crisis due to isolation and being forced to be at home through either the school systems or through workplace exposures. So we have been able to get to them within a couple of hours of them making contact with us. So Feed Me Geelong, with the help of the P500 grant, we were really hoping that we were able to have the full expression of the market and cafe here happening in the last kind of 6 months. But with the many ins and outs of lockdowns and isolations and tier 1 exposures to exposures and people experiencing that kind of economic climate, has been really trying for us. But we are very, very close to operating in our full capacity and having this open to public for community support. So we are looking for more volunteers that can work on site during 9 till 4 in the Newtown area to help get that really pumping and open. All of our permits have been approved, which is very, very helpful in going forward. We also have an Adopt a Crate campaign, which means you can adopt a crate for food delivery. We're currently doing 300 to 400 families through our Newtown site over this COVID exposure, COVID lockdown time. However, some corporate businesses and some commercial businesses in Geelong have rolled through a Adopt a Crate program for $10 a week to help support us financially in keeping our deliveries up and being able to take on more deliveries, which we are getting every single day.
Thanks, folks. Welcome back. It was great to visit Lana just recently down at Feed Me Geelong and get her to give us an update. They've done some incredible work during COVID, and you know, something like 7,000 meals a week they're providing to the community. And I think because they have a hospitality background, I think they'll do really well in their Geelong location in terms of recovering food from hospitality venues in the Geelong area. I think they've developed an app now to be able to make it easier for restaurants and different hospitality venues to be able to identify that they've got food that can be repurposed. So really great use of your donations last year. We're just waiting for the final vote to come through. So I thought we just might recap. Back in 2017, our first year, we had a grant of $22,500 that went to Gateways, and we bought 2 high-low beds, beds that could be used in their facility to support the workers to being able to get children with a disability in and out of a bed safely. In 2018, we had a grant of $37,500 that went to Good Cycles, which was a pre-employment training program for young people. Then in 2019, it was a grant of $52,500 that went to the Sanctuary Counselling Service, an incredible service here for Geelong. And of course, last year, the $46,000 grant to Feed Me Geelong.
Goes to show you the importance of the endowment fund as well, Gail, with that fluctuation from 2019 going down in 2020. And of course, that was on the back of the stock markets plummeting due to our friend COVID. So it just goes to show all of our donors the power of that endowment fund and why it's important. And, it keeps generating returns. I think $9,000.
$9,000 in interest this year that we added to the grant. So, and that's just going to keep getting bigger. So right. The power of endowment.
Indeed.
Do we have a winner?
We do. I've been handed the piece of paper. So I'm delighted to announce this year that the winner of our $68,000 grant is going to Geelong Youth Engagement. Kelly, congratulations. So happy for you. Obviously, every organisation does amazing work in our community and all deserving winners, but working with our disadvantaged youth and helping give them guidance. Tell us what does it mean to you and how you feel?
It's like the one thing with COVID, we haven't been able to deliver our programs to full capacity, which is we've hated, but the positive out of it is it's given us the time to think about these type of new programs. And, we're very grateful to Gail and the team at Geelong Community Foundation because they're supporting us from day one in a lot of different ways. And especially everyone with the P500, I think it's such a great initiative having so many different people. I feel for you because I think that would have been a really hard decision to split because, talking to the guys in the background, I'd want to support every single one of those. I wish all the best to Geelong Mums and Common Ground Project because they're amazing initiatives, and I no doubt you'll get where you need to go because I would think out of that someone will be able to help you with funding along the way. And just talking to you guys too, I'm actually really looking forward to maybe doing some things with both of you, with the participants. We want the young people to do some community work, and there's 2 great programs that, we can support and would love to, collab with along the way. But I also got a big thank you to Max, who helped in the video, one of the participants this year. I think he did an amazing job. But also Cormac as well for his patience with all that, because it wasn't an easy thing. But I think, great way for you guys, the format you've done this year, to get around the restrictions we've had. But just thank you to everyone. I'm just really looking forward to being able to share coming into next year what we can do, and where you see these young people in 5-10 years time, because they could be your employees, or anything like that. So it can really change their lives, and you guys have all contributed to that. So thank you so much.
And Kelly, the funding is going to help this program for 2 years as well, which is
that's it. So 2 years it'll cover. So that's great, because we can confidently now go to the rest of these schools that we've been visiting to say this is definitely happening, and it's happening for 2 years. So, and once we've got that momentum, we know then we're in for the long run with these programs. We don't want anything short-lived. So that'll just continue on like Kokoda program, and who knows for how long ahead.
It's amazing. Well, beautifully said, Kelly, and congratulations again. We're incredibly happy for you, and apologies that Common Ground and Geelong Mums couldn't win this year, but in recognition of being such deserving winners, the Geelong Community Foundation will be giving $1,000 to each organisation, just as a small token of our appreciation for your efforts and making the applications. We know it's not a small time commitment to do so, so we're pleased to commit that to you. And we, of course, invite both of you to apply for the Geelong Community Foundation's major grant round next year for 2022, 2023 as well. So many previous P500 unsuccessful applicants have gained funding through that, so we'd love to see you in that major grant round as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just some final words from me. Again, I want to say a massive thanks to Gail, Tony and Jeanette. They're a very small but powerful team at the Geelong Community Foundation, and the support they get from the wider board is incredible, and the support we get on the P500 committee is just incredible. We've got such autonomy and control, and we've been able to really drive this program over the last couple of years, and it's been a great honour for me to chair this committee over the last 2 years. And I'm really thankful to have worked with an incredible committee of like-minded, committed people who want to make a difference in the community. It's such a great group to be a part of. So thank you to each and every one of the committee members for your passion and tireless efforts this year. It hasn't gone unnoticed, a particularly trying 2 years, and to have eclipsed our target for the first time and got to 236 donors is a particularly nice feeling for us at the end of the year. So I'll throw over to Gail for some final words.
Well, thanks, Simon, and I couldn't run this program without the committee, so I'm so grateful for the work that they do. So sincere thanks. But most importantly to you, the donors, you are the ones that have enabled this grant to happen. And it's the word of mouth. It's you sharing information about P500 and the power that it has, the impact that it has on the community that I just greatly appreciate. And I'm really looking forward to 2022 in being able to run the next campaign. We would love some new committee members as well. It's always great to get a couple of new committee members on board. So there'll be a little survey that you can complete at the conclusion of the event. So if you'd like to talk to any one of us about jumping on board and being part of P500 as a committee member, we would love to have you. And as I said, we would love to have you as donors back on board in 2022. Thank you so much for the support that you've shown this program. The $68,000 grant to Geelong Youth Engagement is going to make a huge difference for young people in this community, and we'll look forward to hearing from Kelly in 12 months' time in terms of the great work that she's been able to do for young people in our amazing community. So thank you. Thanks for being a part of tonight, and I wish you well. Good night.
Good night.